you. Glad you're here. Oh, that makes one of us. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Enneagram Type 6. Enneagram Type 6. Yours truly. Me, myself, and I. Not looking forward to it. Oh, it's not that. You guys are gracious. It's just I don't like my number. That's how I know I'm a 6. I don't like it. So yeah, we'll wait a few minutes and get started. Any other 6s out there tonight? It is the most common Enneagram type in the world, is what almost all Enneagram teachers agree on. Most common type. So, any other 6s out there? Let me hear you. Midweek that will correspond to our series after Easter, but it will be all virtual. It will be only virtual. And then that'll be a 4-week class. Yeah, so I know, I do too. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of hopeful for the fall that at the very least we can be non-social distance with masks. At most, we can be fully open.
Well, and according to Jeff's message today, we're moving in that direction.
We are.
So if it's when everybody is about hours.
Yep.
It's smart about this whole thing. We should run sure.
Yeah, we are. So if you didn't see, there was an email that went out, and Pastor Jeff had a video there too. We are slowly on Sundays mornings. There'll be sections for the next few weeks where people can not be as social distance but still have masks, but so they can move closer. There'll be a section. This one here, and then on the far right side of the auditorium. Monitoring that, evaluating that, if all of that goes well, and we continue to maintain safety, cases continue to drop, all of those things, it's potential that after Easter, not on Easter before, but after Easter, we may allow that section to be no masks and close together. That's several other churches have started that already, and that's potentially our phase. So yeah, based on that trajectory, we could be open by the fall, especially with second rounds of vaccines, hopefully.
Right. Well, like my Tuesday night class, we're in the gym, and the chairs are distanced, and it is almost normal. And it feels normal.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why something like that can't continue.
That can definitely continue, and I would think that's probably another conversation in the phase is, okay, those classes now, can they maybe keep masks on to get closer together where they don't feel like they're 6 feet apart? And our youth, can they get closer together but keep masks on for now? Because we've been keeping them super far from each other, which I think they need to be close. High-fiving, being around each other, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm concerned for the mental health, so I'm concerned for the physical health too, but those students. Yes. Yeah.
I just kind of my dogs.
Play some dogs. We will have a choir again. Not sure when, but we're moving that way. So I think we've done well. I think we've been not cutting edge, like let's go ahead and open now, but and not ahead of the curve, but ahead of the average for churches, in my opinion, from the churches that we've looked at. But I think we're being cautious about that. Also, my perspective. All right. But I'm a 6, so
afraid of everything, apparently. But I'm a counterphobic 6, so we'll look at more about what that means in a minute. Hi, did Fuzzy get out of coming? Oh, I thought we were going to bring her. Well, I'm sure she did. That's fine. Hey, Lynn. Glad you're here joining us. All right. So I was just telling our folks here, we only have 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks of the Enneagram. And then our midweek will take a break for 2 weeks, and then we'll be virtual after that for 4 weeks, and then we'll be done on the midweek for the spring. So type 6 and then type 7. And that is what we're going to do. And I am type 6, so I get to talk about myself and my Enneagram number, and I'm not really excited about it. Yeah, and I'm sure there's some people in the room that would love to offer their perspective on what it's like to be in relationship with me. I will. It's going to be entertaining. I will happily invite your perspective. It will be a great example of your blind spots. Nobody's up there. Bryce, Amy? Nope, nobody's up there. This, when I invite feedback from my wife, this will be a great example of the way you see yourself and the way others see you. It's often different. Is it hot? Yeah, I am getting a blast of air, cold air. Thanks, Jason. All right. So, because that's always something to pay attention to, is we have blind spots. By definition, we don't know what they are. Even the most self-aware person doesn't know their blind spots. You only get your blind spots revealed to you through feedback, which who doesn't love feedback? Nobody likes feedback in my experience. Even if they say they do. Oh, no, give me feedback. They don't mean it. Only positive feedback. Yeah, positive feedback. Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me how great I was. I'm not where I need to grow. I don't like that one bit. Okay, so let's pray, and then we'll start out with a passage about the infamous Doubting Thomas. Poor guy, gets a bad rep. I can relate to him. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for our friends gathered here tonight. I pray that you would help our time be beneficial to our growth, to our love for you, to our love for other people. Help us continue to grow compassionate, continue to grow wider perspectives, that not everyone is like me, not everyone thinks like me, not everyone is motivated by the same things I'm motivated by. And help me appreciate all the diversity of personalities that we have in the world, and not think that I have others or myself or you to figure it out. Help us to be learners, help us to be hungry for that, and God, let tonight be another step closer to that process. Speak through me and help the community speak into what it's like to be surrounded by a 6 or in relationship to a 6. And God, I pray you give us wisdom and grace. Amen. Okay. John 20. I don't think there's 24 chapters in John. John chapter 20. This is after Jesus has risen from the dead and is revealing himself to the disciples. And this is Thomas, and he's often known as Doubting Thomas, although the word doubt in his defense never shows up in the text. Unbelief does, and I would argue that doubt and unbelief are not exactly the same thing, although they can overlap. We'll get into that more because if you want to know anything about a 6, you have to understand the relationship to doubt. You have to understand the relationship to doubt. So, 2024. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger in the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe." 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you've seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen me and yet have believed." A great text to talk about faith, to talk about unbelief, to talk about doubt. I think there's a lot to explore here. The 6 is the loyal skeptic. The 6 is the loyal skeptic. So we are committed and yet extremely suspicious. Committed and yet filled with questions. In fact, in the book, I appreciate that they did this. They gave several other names for the type 6, and one of them is the questioner. Because if you are around a type 6, and if you watch me in a meeting, I have a few 8s that I'm in meetings, and they are making assertions, and then I'm asking questions. And they are making assertions, and I'm asking questions. What do you mean by that? How will this affect us? What about this going forward? How can we implement this? Have you considered this? And so I'm filled with questions. That's my natural stance, is to ask questions, whereas others' natural stance may be to make assertions. And so the questioner is one of the names for the loyalist. I do think the loyalist, it needs to be expounded on. Loyal skeptic, for sure. Another one that I don't like that is very accurate is devil's advocate. It's very accurate. I got some laughs from my wife. Devil's advocate, because even for me as a 6, if I agree with what you're saying, even if when you press me up against the wall and say, "But what do you think?" I may agree with you. But here's the thing. I'm going to ask you if you've considered the other side. And I'm going to play devil's advocate as if I believe the other side. And that's probably going to be very frustrating for you, because you're going to be like, would you pick a side and stop playing devil's advocate? So we are the loyalist, skeptic, the questioner, the devil's advocate. I think that describes us. We're committed, security seeking. 6s are driven by fear. Most of our decisions are related to fear in regards to security. And I'll talk about fear for the 6s, and there's 2 types of 6s. There's the phobic 6 and the counterphobic 6, and that's really important to know, because some 6s, they have a lot of fear, but you wouldn't know it, because they go head on to their fears, and they're like, let's go for it. I'm going to face these fears. Some 6s, their fears cause them to hide. So it's very important that there are a couple of types of 6s, the phobic and the counterphobic. Let me read for you a little bit about, in the beginning of this book, what it's like to be a 6. I thought these were pretty helpful. It also reminded me that I don't relate to everything in here when they describe a 6. So just again, you may not relate to everything that people describe about your number. That doesn't mean I'm not a 6. It just means, oh, well, that doesn't show up for me like that. So it's important to remember that. What it's like to be a 6. Number 2, I don't often trust people who are in authority. That's very true. A 6 is almost always suspicious of power and suspicious of authority. I led a 6 on my creative team in St. Louis, and I worked next to him before I led him. And we both shared the same suspicion of authority. We're watching because we don't trust, that's a key word for 6s, we don't trust people in power, and we don't know how they're going to use it. So we're watching them very carefully. 6s are actually good to give power to, because one of the things, well, I'll explain the caveat to that. But one of the reasons we're good to give power to is because we do not like lording it over people. We do not like giving directives. We do not like saying you have to do this or else. We do not like pressuring people. We like people to be free to make their own decisions. If you're in a leadership position, the caveat is that can kind of get you in trouble because sometimes you have to give people directives. Sometimes you got to move the ship along and you have to have hard conversations. But the 6 does not like to be authoritative, so they're anti-authoritative in their leadership style. But we are very suspicious of authority. Number 7 for me really resonated. Being sure I've made the right decision is almost impossible. So remember, we're in the thinking triad, and the center of each triad, 3, 6, 9, are the repressed center. So I'm a thinker, but I'm a repressed thinker. I don't know which thoughts are my own. I think a lot, but I often don't know which thoughts are my own. I can see a lot of different sides, and I have a big committee, and I like to get feedback from you, and feedback from you, and feedback from you, and feedback from you in order to help me make a supported decision to feel secure in it. But then in the end, I'm like, but I still don't know what to do. And then when I actually choose, I'm plagued by doubt and insecurity. I don't think that was the right decision. What if this? What if that? What if this? So being confident that I've made a good decision is incredibly difficult. Yes. Oh, we're starting the feedback early. Okay, I haven't even got really through the intro. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, people are often confused by 6s and by me. I just like to keep it that way. I like to keep people at a distance, so keep them wondering, who is that mysterious guy? Yeah. So the devil's advocate thing is a real thing, and we're not just playing it with you, we're playing it inside with ourselves at all times. There's always a devil's advocate conversation of, well, what about that? I don't know, I hadn't thought about that. Well, what about this? Have you considered that? No, I haven't considered that. And then we get paralyzed in our thinking. So now I'm stuck. I don't know what way to go forward. Can somebody just tell me what to do? So, yeah. And I think the flip-flop is a good way to describe a 6. It's confusing because if you get to know me a little more, you will know that I'm pretty conservative around certain issues. And then if you get to know me a little more, you'll know that I'm pretty liberal around certain issues. And you'll be like, well, you're not wholly liberal, but you're not wholly conservative. I'm not just talking politics. But it will confuse you because there's some things I will say, no, that shouldn't be like that. And then there's other things you think, you're confusing. I feel like you're an edgy person, but then when it gets down to it, you seem conservative. So 6s are often a mix of both conservative and liberal thought processes and expressions. Number 8, I'm aware that fear has dictated many choices in my life. When I was 8 years old, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and I remember sitting there on a Sunday night, and the pastor's name was Brother Shad, and he preached on hell. And I was 8 years old. And I heard a message on hell, and if you didn't know Jesus, you were going to go to hell. And I was terrified. And I thought to myself, I don't know what this means, but I don't want to go there. So whatever I have to do to not go there, that's what I would like to do. And so my decision to become a Christian was based on fear of punishment, fear of hell. Now, that's not a great motive, but it is what it is. And I would argue, now that I know a little bit more, God is so humble that he even accepts the motivation to escape punishment as acceptable. So just to escape punishment is a normal thing. To escape pain is a normal thing. And God's so humble that it's not that I even chose God. I just decided to choose no pain. And to me, that's just a very incredible thing about the nature of God, that he's so humble. So yeah, absolutely, like, I'll take that, whatever that. So my point in that illustration, though, is most of the decisions for sixes are motivated by fear. It drives us. That's our key emotion, is being afraid. But let me say this, and we're in a little bit of your notes right now. But it's not necessarily I'm afraid of this concrete experience. It's more, there's a free-floating anxiety for a 6. I'm just always anxious. I don't even know what it's about. It doesn't have to be about anything. It can just be, I'm anxious. I wake up anxious. Throughout the day, I'm anxious. I go to bed anxious. That's a normal posture for a 6. I'm just anxious. And so if you're going to understand 6s, you're going to have to understand that they are driven by fear, but often it's a free-floating anxiety. Well, what are you anxious about? I don't know. Just an overwhelming sense of dread. So, did you test as a 6? 6 and 9. Do you relate to some of what I'm saying? Definitely. Yeah. Hi, sweetie. Yeah, and so feel free to jump in and dive in and say, yeah, that shows up for me like this, or I didn't know that, but that's me, or anything. Any feedback you got. Number 16, what it's like to be a 6. I don't trust people who give me too many compliments. Nope. I remember we were in sermon prep here when I first got on staff, and I'm a gifted communicator. That's my gifting, so I'm decent at it, but I can always get better. So when we're sitting in sermon prep, and people start, after my first sermon, they're like, oh, I thought you did this good, and you did this good. And about after the 4th compliment, I start to think, I don't trust anybody. Like, when are we going to get to the stuff I need to work on? Like, I don't trust this until somebody starts to give me feedback that says you need to get better at this. Then I'll trust it. So genuinely, if you want a 6 to trust you, give them some praise and then give them something instructive and say, hey, I think that could have went better. They'll be a little bit offended in the moment, but they'll trust you. Is that true for you? I don't trust, if it's only positive, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay, but I know you think something about there was a weakness here, so you need to just say it and I'll feel better about it. Yes, yeah, but what? Okay. And, yeah. It helps me to have things in order. I like being told I'm good at my job, but I get very nervous when my boss wants to add to my responsibilities. That's incredibly true. The other thing for the 6 is they get very anxious around stress. We can get easily stressed. And depending on what wing you are, if you're a 6-wing 5, which I am, then I can get really anxious about stress. And especially if you notice, if you distrust the one in authority, or you have trouble trusting someone in authority, but you want to be loyal to them, and then they're going to give you more responsibility, now you're in a really challenging position. Do I say yes because I want to be the good boy or good girl and keep this relationship intact? Do I say no because that's probably more true to myself and I don't want to overrun myself? Now you're in a really tight, between a rock and a hard place for the 6. Again, it's a relationship to authority, it's a relationship to fear, it's a relationship to doubt and distrust. Okay? Any questions? Any thoughts? Anybody online, a 6? Anybody have anything to say? I'll tell you our superpower in just a minute. Anybody related to a 6 or have a 6 in their family? No? Maybe? All right. 6s are committed, security-oriented. We're engaging. Remember, 1s, 2s, and 6s are in this present relationship moment. Like we're engaging in the present with you right now. Responsible, Sixes are very hard workers. We're very responsible. Being prepared is a character trait of a 6, but we're also anxious and suspicious. Our root sin is anxiety, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. The core triad emotion is fear. We're driven by fear. Sixes, caricature of the sixes is, the person who has a bunker on their property, right? It's a doomsday bunker. It is filled with water and food, and it's a shelter in case the end of the world happens. Sixes are worst case scenario thinkers. We go automatically to the worst case scenario. In fact, I remember having a meeting with my 6 who was on my team, and because I'm a 6, I know what it's like, what he feels. So I would say, hey, can we meet on Thursday? You're not in trouble. And I would have to say this, because if I just said, hey, do you have time to meet on Thursday? He's immediately like, is it bad? What are we talking about? This is the 6's mind. So if you lead a 6, or if you're a boss of a 6, and you say, if you're an authority to a 6, we need to talk, they're going to assume the worst. I'm fired. You're mad at me. I'm in trouble. Like, what did I do wrong? And the 6 is going to go into a state of panic. So just let the 6 know, we're going to talk about this. All right, then they're like, okay, well, I'm not in trouble. They hate the vague, hey, can we meet tomorrow? It feels like you're taking the 6 to the principal's office, and I've had many bouts of panic with, I don't know what I did, but I feel like I'm about to get scolded for it. Because 6s fear the worst and fear the worst case scenario, 6s think about everything that could go wrong. This is what drives people crazy about 6s. You're questioning everything as if this whole plan could just explode. And the 6 is like, well, it could. This could all go down in a minute. Like, why wouldn't we think through this? Right? Do you relate to this? We need to be thinking about this, because what if we get a flat tire? What if we run out of this? What about money? So this is the 6. Now, I'm setting us up for the 6's superpower. This is the gift of a 6 on the team. We're in the mind triad, so we're quick mentally. We fear the worst case scenario, and we are able to see everything that could possibly go wrong. Therefore, our superpower that we bring to the world is creative problem solving. We can help you get through the solution because we've considered everything that could go wrong. We've already considered, like this, all of the problems, all of the weaknesses. We've poked holes in your theory, and we've decided, no, that's not going to work because of this. That won't work because of this. That won't work because of this. If you want it to happen, this needs to be in place. 6s bring creative problem solving to the table, and we will help you with the safest way forward, the best way forward. 6s, our core desire is just to feel safe. It's just to be safe, to feel secure. Courtney and I realized this, I don't know, probably a few years ago. It was an observation. I think we were learning about Enneagram, and I said to Courtney, 6s are some of the safest people that you'll meet, because we need to feel safe ourselves, so we want you to feel safe. We want you to feel physically safe so we can protect you, but we also want you to feel emotionally safe. I didn't realize this, but we observed where I would sit in a restaurant. And I unconsciously, before I was aware of this, I would never sit in the center of a restaurant. And yeah, I would never go where people were behind me. I would always make sure that my back was up against a wall somewhere. And I didn't know this. I didn't realize this. Courtney did. And I would always make sure, where's the exit? Where are we? I was hyper vigilant. That's another word to describe a 6. Hyper vigilant. We're scanning the environment. You familiar with the Jason Bourne trilogy? Like in the beginning, when he gets shot and he gets amnesia and he doesn't know who he is, but he wakes up and he walks into this diner and he's like, I don't know why, but I can tell you this person weighs 180 and they know how to handle themselves. This person has a gun in their car. This person this. He's observing his environment. That's what a 6 does. I'm scanning the environment. We need to watch out for this person. This person is safe. This family over here, something's going on. And Courtney, sometimes it drives her crazy, but I'm like, hold on, I'm still scanning. I'm still scanning the environment. Yeah, we're prepared for danger, even if there's not any. We're prepared for danger. So that is something that is interesting about a 6 is we want you to feel safe because we need to feel safe. Let's talk about anxiety, because if anxiety is our core sin, core passion, then we have a hobby. If that's our core passion, our hobby's name is doubt. We just doubt. We doubt you. We doubt the world. We doubt the system, whatever it is. We doubt the organization. We're skeptical of all the propaganda. We're skeptical of truth. We're skeptical of God because mostly, and this is where I think our compassion for the 6 can open up, mostly we doubt everyone else because at our core, we doubt ourselves. We doubt ourselves. I don't think I can do it. I don't think it's any good. I don't know if I can show up for this. I don't know if I can do the job. I doubt myself as a husband. I doubt myself as a father. I doubt myself. You see, the core hobby for the 6 is doubt. And so, standing up in front of people, giving sermons or teaching, people might think, I've said this out loud before, I've shared some of this, and people are like, I don't experience that from you at all. And I'm like, that's all I experience is doubt. Oh, that didn't sound very good. Oh, that wasn't very good. I'll walk off stage. Oh, that was the worst thing I've ever done. And this was terrible. It is all this doubt. And again, it's not primarily a doubt of everything and everyone out there. It's a doubting of the self. This is where, yes, please. Yeah. Comment was made, I have all the confidence in you. You just need to have confidence in yourself. And I think, I don't know about how that impacted you, but I understood that. I just never could just make myself believe in myself, though. Oh, I get it. I don't understand how everyone else believes in themselves. I don't. So, I think, this is a good opportunity to say, you've heard me critique the church and critique Christianity, and I will continue to critique the church and Christianity. But let me be a little gracious here and say, sometimes people want to apply wisdom to people, and it's just misapplied wisdom. And there's a lot of teaching that can really damage a 6, because you can take certain passages in the Bible and apply it to a 6 that says, don't trust yourself. There's things in you that are bad. There's things in you that you should not trust yourself. Your heart is deceitful, it's wicked. And I would just say, there's a truth there, but I think it can be misapplied wisdom to the 6, because the 6 is like, you don't need to tell me that. That is pure ammo for me to continue to stay small and live a small life. Because the truth is, the 6, this is the unconscious childhood message. It's not okay to trust yourself. Don't trust yourself. Don't trust your answers. Don't trust your perspective. Don't trust yourself. And there is religious teaching that can just reinforce that for the 6. So they'll stay trapped in their doubt. That's why one of the key growth movements for the 6 is this: learn to trust yourself. Like Courtney said earlier, the 1s have the loudest inner critic. 6s have the most people on the committee that they need to check in with. The 1s and the 6s both need to do some firing. The 1s need to fire the inner critic, and the 6s need to fire the committee. In fact, when a 6 starts to relax their anxiety, they will stop checking in with all the committee. they will start making their own decisions and saying, no, we need to go with this. This is what I think we need to do, or this is what I want. This is what I desire, and this is how we're going to go forward. And the 6 begins to fire the committee of, what do you think about this? Do you approve of this? Is this the right decision? Is this the right choice? And the 6 gets analysis paralysis, so they never go forward. But when they trust themselves, they know what they want. They move to that great instinct of a 9, which trusts their gut and says, no, we're going with this. So, yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah. Courtney said since 6s are the loyalist, they have to surrender being loyal to the authority, even if the authority is an author, a book, a system, and be loyal to themselves. And that's true. That's true for the 6, because I remember there was probably 6 years ago, and I was being invited to a growth movement, and my counselor said to me, your loyalty is the biggest thing in your way right now. And I thought, what are you talking about? Loyalty is a good thing. And he was like, yeah, but for you use it to not trust yourself and make the right decision going forward. And you're kind of using loyalty as a shield to keep you feeling safe when you should be taking the risk and going forward. So that was really hard to hear, and it took me a while to receive it, let it settle in, and go forward. But that was true for me. Let's talk about, this is what the mind of a 6 is like. I should say, this is what the mind of an average to unhealthy 6 is like. Again, when a 6 is more healthy, they sink down into their body and they trust their instincts. They get in tune with their desires and they trust their instincts. I'm going to James. You know the passage. Please have compassion on a 6. Here's why. This is what it feels like to be in the mind of a 6. James 1:6. Let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He's a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Can't tell you how many times I read that. And I was like terrified. I was like, oh, that's me. But it's true. 6s vacillate so strongly because of their doubt. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. I don't know, it could be this. I don't know, it could be that. There's no safe way forward. Let's just don't do anything. That's where the average to unhealthy 6 gets in trouble. Is this true? Do what? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think even we were making some choices on calendar stuff, and I mean, Courtney's not a 6, so she's usually better at decision making in this realm, but we were just kind of stuck, and I was no help. I was no help, because I'm like, everything comes out, devil's advocate and doubt. Well, what about this? And have we considered this? Well, if we do this, then this happens. Well, if we do that, then that happens. And if we do this, then this happens. If we do this, and then I'm just like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm going to go to bed. So we just get stuck in this process. All right, our core fear is being without support or guidance. That's why we try to get the input from experts or authorities or systems that we think have been proven, tried and true, and we try to get their support and guidance, and then we think that will make us safe. Our core desire is to have security and support. Security and support. The 6 has to learn to build their own backbone and to trust it. To build our own backbone and to trust it. For the 8, that's not really an issue. For the 6, it's an issue. It's tough to have a spine for us. I did say I was talking about fear. So there's 2 types of 6s in relationship to fear. There's the phobic and the counterphobic. The phobic 6s cave into their fear or they hide behind their fear. So people have looked at me and they're like, you're not a 6. I don't see any fear. And that's because I'm not a phobic 6. I have some of that, but I'm more of a counterphobic 6, which means I'm going to identify my fear and I'm going to move against it anyways. And so, I've been skydiving. I do risky things. Like, none of that stuff bothers me. So the 6s that are like, you can't do that, that's not safe, that doesn't bother me. Trips to Africa, just things that could cause people harm, that doesn't bother me. Hard conversations, just a second. Hard conversations. 6s have the most access to courage because they've always been afraid. 6s have the most access to courage because they've always been afraid. So our ability to reach into the pocket of courage and go forward is a little bit quicker than most others if they're afraid, just because there's always this fear that we live with. So courage to have hard conversations with coworkers, bosses, family members. Counterphobic 6s, they'll move pretty quickly, relatively quickly for a 6. Not as quick as an 8, but relatively quickly on, I know I need to have that. I just need to work up enough courage to do it, but I'm going to get there. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do love theme parks. Man, I love me a good roller coaster, especially the ones that make you feel like you're falling. Those are fun. Yeah, I like that phrase. Like, 6s have learned to do it afraid. So, am I afraid when I stand up and public speak? Absolutely. Am I afraid when I get up on a Sunday morning and preach? Hands down. Am I filled with doubt? Yeah. I think I'm growing more to trust myself, to trust God, to trust others. That's what's hard about being in a relationship with the 6. They don't trust you easily. They just don't. We don't trust you. So it can be difficult to be in a relationship with the 6, not just because of our trust, but our doubt causes us to flip-flop in the relationship. We want you close, we want you distant. We want you close, we want you distant. I need to know if you love me and approve of me, and now I need you to give me space. And that's a 6 vacillating doubt back and forth. So let me read 6 Wing 5, because we're a grumpy type. 6 Wing 7 are more fun. 6 Wing 7 are way more fun. But let me read 6 Wing 5, because we're grumpy. I think I know a 6 Wing 7, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You're a 6, but you're not as introverted as I am. 6 Wing 5 are more introverted, intellectual, cautious, self-controlled, and apt to seek security through allegiance to an authority figure. They gravitate towards a defined belief system and a group that shares their values. Sometimes misread as distant or aloof. Sometimes misread. I was like, this is probably not a misread. I can be distant and aloof. 6 Wing 5s simply like to protect their privacy. It's true. Engage in solitary activities. Also true. And pursue hobbies. So I love alone time. I like to be by myself. I need that introvert time. As I said last week on the 5, I can handle 45 minutes to an hour of social interaction, and then I gotta go. Unless it's Courtney. And the kids. Courtney and the kids. I do pursue hobbies. Athletics, working out, mountain biking, woodworking, other kinds of hobbies. 6s pursue different hobbies. 6 Wing 5 has a greater need for time alone, which can help them gain a broader perspective on things that contribute to their anxiety. The counter is also true since with the 5 wing, the 6 may ruminate too much, exacerbating unproductive thinking. Because they can overanalyze things for too long without taking action, we can suffer from analysis paralysis. So part of the growth movement for the 6 is to stop thinking and start acting. You've thought it through. There is no foolproof way. You can get hurt with any of these things. Go ahead and make a decision. Go ahead and go forward. Go ahead and do the action. And I've had to learn that in my own growth movement. And I've learned that once I've begun to act and the world didn't fall apart, I've learned to trust myself more. Go ahead and act. Go ahead and act quicker. For me, acting quicker was a way through my anxiety so I didn't have to sit in it. Because with my anxiety, I would just sit and think and think and think. That didn't do anything. You can't outthink anxiety. You can't do it. So I just needed to move through it and make a decision and go forward. 6 wing 7, briefly, 6 wing 7 are a delightful surprise. We didn't describe 6 wing 5 like that. It's not fair. Reflecting the playfulness of 7, they're entertaining, animated, and adventuresome. They're willing to risk, albeit only a little, so the boundaries of the 6 are stretched to accommodate more option. But 6 wing 7 doesn't completely separate from their anxiety. There's always a backup plan in case an adventure becomes a misadventure. 6 wing 7 are far more extroverted and willing to sacrifice themselves for loved ones than 6s with 5 wings. 6s, I'm describing 6 wing 5 as aloof and distant, but we know how to build relationship and we know how to build intimacy. 6 wing 5, we can also be warm. 6s can also be incredibly warm and compassionate. 6s can also be witty and funny. One of the reasons we use humor is to get you to like us. Because the motive for the 6 is if you like me, you won't hurt me. And so if I can be warm and funny and witty and playful, people describe me as playful. I like to play pranks. I like to joke. I like to laugh. But a lot of it is driven by this. But if you like me, then you won't hurt me. And that's what I need from you. I need you to be a safe person. So that's how I'm going to get that. We long to hear you're safe. Our time orientation is in the present moment. We are dependent in the relationship stance and compliant. Again, 6s are great to have on your team, loyal, committed. They're going to work hard. They're going to show up and be prepared. We're not procrastinators. It's too anxious. It's too much anxiety for us to be procrastinators. So, I think I use the analogy of when you're planning a fun trip, like let the 6 plan it and prepare for it. Let a 7 lead it, right? The 6 won't necessarily create as much fun, but the 6 will be prepared if anything else goes wrong. But let a 7 lead that trip and lead everybody into adventure, but let a 6 be prepared because we have been prepared. That's what we do. We prepare. We get ready for things. Yeah, my wife's a dreamer. So 6s usually aren't because they're more cynical. We're more skeptical, and we would say realists. We're just a realist. And so other people dream, and then we'll say, okay, if we're going to do that, let me help plan this out. Here's all the details that we need to take care of. 6s are incredibly detail-oriented people. And so we can cover the details for, again, what's the safest way to do this? What's the cheapest way? In fact, 6s are, we can investigate like a 5. What's the safest and best and cheapest and most effective way to do this thing? What are you laughing at? Yeah. Where went north? Oh, Are you protecting my privacy? Yeah. I've told that story in big church, though. Yeah. So we went to Iceland, and I was not prepared for, actually, I just didn't want to pay the cell phone bill coverage that was going to cost to go to Iceland. And so, but I was able to figure out maps, GPS, navigate, prepare. That's what I'm saying. We didn't have cell phone. I'm sorry, you're right. We didn't. I thought we had a car GPS, but we didn't have that either. Well, thank you. So, again, creative problem solving. If we don't have if we don't have the resource in front of us, we can still figure out a way forward. All right. Any questions so far? If you're in relationship to a 6, again, let me give you a couple skills that a 6 needs to hear. They need to know they're safe with you. And let me just say this. When we start planning or asking questions or worst case scenario, don't shut us down. Don't say that's foolish. Don't say that's never going to happen. Go with us a little bit. Okay, so then what would you do? Okay, so then how would you plan it? Okay, so what else do we need to be prepared for? Come with us with that, because it's not you who's going to talk us out of being worst case scenario thinking. It's us who's going to talk us out of worst case scenario thinking. So go with us just a little bit, and then that's going to create connection between us and the relationship. We'll trust you, and then we'll usually talk ourselves off the ledge. Again, don't over-compliment a 6. Tell them a couple things they did well. Tell them where they need to grow, or tell them what you didn't like about it. Because trust me, we do not trust you if you only have nice things to say to us. We just don't. We are the cynics and skeptics in the Enneagram. That's why 6s and 1s can be very challenging when we mistype. 6s can type as 1s, 1s can type as 6s, because the 1 sees the weakness of the organization, but so does the 6. Because the 6 sees that weakness can cause us harm, and we need to plug that hole in the dam. The 1 sees that's an imperfection, and we need to make it better. You see, so they can do, both of us do that. We see weaknesses in the relationship, weaknesses in the partner, in the organization, whatever, in ourselves. Both 1s and 6s do that for different reasons, but we both see the weaknesses. So I say that to say, please don't speak to us in such a way where you only see the positives, even about us. All right, just a few more minutes. Let's go to growth and stress. Growth and stress. Courtney, is there anything I know you've given some comments, but is there anything you would like to add if you want to understand a 6? I mean, it's difficult to be in a relationship with a 6. I'll just say that. Because we're push-pull, we're draw near to me and then get away from me. We're always doubt. We don't know what we want. So it can test the patience of the other person to be in relationship to a 6. Obviously, every number is going to test the patience of the other person. That's what relationships are. But that's what's challenging about being in a relationship with a 6. Did you have anything that's helpful insight about a 6? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was a gracious way of saying I'll be a little more hard on the sixes. But my wife said the devil's advocate is hard to be in relationship with because, let me give you an example. Let's say that my wife, like a coworker, offends her, and she comes home and she says to me, "This person said this, and that really hurt my feelings." Well, my natural stance is to be devil's advocate and to say something like, "Well, how do we know if they didn't mean it like that? Or, well, what did you do? Or what if they meant something else?" And for her, she was, saying this in just a moment ago, that feels like I'm against her, not for her. And she doesn't need me to play devil's advocate at that moment. She needs me to empathize with her and say, "Man, I'm really sorry. That must have really hurt." So yeah, that can feel, what my wife's saying is, devil's advocate can feel like you're against the person as opposed to for them. And that's got me into trouble. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you're speaking to a six, please encourage them not to play devil's advocate if you need at that moment. I just need you to be on my team right now. Maybe we can explore the other side later, but right now I'm hurt and I just need you to be there for me. Yeah. All right, just briefly, some stress points and some growth points. 6 retreats to type 3 when we're under stress. The 6 becomes more workaholic. We become more driven to produce and achieve. Anxiety increases, possibly to a state of panic. Our emphasis goes to work. I know I'm in trouble because one healthy thing for a 6 is to have continuous, what am I looking for? Contemplative actions. A healthy thing for a 6 is morning prayer, noon prayer, evening prayer, like reflective journaling. A healthy thing for the 6 is to settle themselves. I know I'm in trouble when I wake up and I start with email. To me, that's a flag of like, I feel like I'm running into 3 mode here and just trying to be productive and achieve. So what's going on right now? Emphasis goes to work or performing rigidly. We will begin to tell lies or deceive, try to appear competent or efficient. Here's what's hard about a 6 in our relationship to work. We will take on a lot and then resent you for the stress. But it's our fault. We will say yes to a lot. Sure, I can do more, especially if it's the authority figure. Whether yes to the organization. Yes, I can keep doing it. Sure, I can tackle that because I want to be loyal and I want you to know how committed I am. And then we'll be stressed and we will resent you for that pressure. But really, that's the 6's fault because we haven't resolved our relationship to authority and our distrust of that. Melody says, "I've learned so much tonight about 6s. I especially learned that I need to criticize Chad more." It's true. Is that what you learned, Neely? Yeah. What? Don't be nice. Put me down. Yes. That's the 6's conundrum. Again, we'll also resent a relationship if we feel that you're adding something to our plate and it stresses us out, but we don't feel that we have a way out of saying no. We won't say no, and then we'll resent you for it. I don't know if that's very true for me. I don't know if you feel. Okay, fair enough. That's everybody. But we struggle to say no to it. We don't feel comfortable saying. We feel like for instance, me and my wife constantly have to navigate. She's like, if 6s do it out of duty, it will drain them. But 6s are very dutiful. We're also called the dutiful soldier. If we do it out of duty, it will drain us. If we do it because we want to, it won't. So sometimes my wife innocently is like, hey, do you want to spend some time together tonight doing this? Do you want to watch a show? Do you want to spend some time on the back porch? And sometimes I'm burnt out and I don't want to spend any time together. I just want to be alone. But now I'm in this existential crisis of, oh, my wife needs something from me. I want to say no. It's dutiful to say yes. If I say yes, I'm going to resent who? Her. You see? Yes, and if I say yes out of duty, she resents me. She's like, just do it because you love me. She's a 4. She's a lover. So it's a dance, but I've had to learn to, if I don't want to do it, I probably shouldn't do it. Not all the time, but just in general. I probably shouldn't do it, or I will be drained and I will resent that person or the moment or myself because I said yes to something that I just should have said no to. I need a lot more, I'm a 5-wing, so I need a lot more space in my calendar to free think. When 6s relax, when we trust ourselves more, when we trust God more, when we trust that the world, because this is how we feel about the world's out to get you. It's just going to get you. The other shoe's going to drop. Everyone is a used car salesman. No offense if any of you are used car salesmen. Everyone is a used car salesman out to trick you. That's how the 6 feels. You're just out to trick me, and this is a lemon, and it's not going to work out. That's just my stance in the world. But when I relax my fear, my anxiety, my doubt, then I'm more trusting. I begin to sink out of my head and into my instincts. I begin to know this is what I want for dinner. This is what I would like to do this weekend. This is a good decision I'm making. I begin to trust that, and I begin to trust that instinct. No, I think I should do this. And I'm not going to ask them and them and them or my committee if they approve of my decision. I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to go forward. We trust more. We're more flexible. 6s can be really rigid. We become more flexible when we let down and we take on those qualities of a 9. We see all sides, not just the dangerous and negative ones. When a 6 really starts to grow, they don't become an optimist. We're not going to be an optimist. But we begin to give room for, good things could happen because of this. There may be some positive things on the horizon. We're going to plan for the worst. But maybe there's something good that's going to happen. We're able to be more supportive and less suspicious. The 6's challenge is we assume your motives are bad. We assume your motives are bad. Our growth point is maybe you do actually care about me. Maybe you do actually want what's best. We learn to relax. We stop waiting for the other shoe to drop when we trust our gut instead of endlessly reviewing mental scenarios. I'm in the process of job searching for a position underneath me. Our small groups coordinator, Joe Walker, transitioned out at the end of last year, and we've been looking to replace that position. And it's really interesting because all through this process, I feel this 6ness of don't trust yourself. No, trust yourself. Don't trust yourself. No, trust yourself. Like, what if you make the wrong decision? What if you get the wrong person? How will you know that this is the right person? Now, that's pretty normal, but I feel it very much as a 6. That's a normal thing for me in general. So when a 6, and I've tried to do a lot of emotional work and interior work, moves to 9, it's, I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to trust this thing. I'm going to trust the people coming my way. I'm going to trust the systems that we have in place. I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to trust God. And we're going to go forward. And we're going to make a decision, and then we're just going to keep going forward. So for us 6s, think less, act more. Any last questions? Any comments? Any questions? Feel free to ask. Hey, Jennifer, you have a lot of 6 in you. Did you test as a 1? Just curious. 6s and 1s have a lot in common. Our behavior and posture can have a lot in common, but we do things for different reasons. So, any last questions or comments? Yes, Neely. Do I find that as I learn to trust myself more, I learn to trust others more? Or am I still skeptical? I would say yes, there is a reciprocal nature to that trust. And I don't know if it's I start trusting you first, and then that actually opens me up to trust myself, or I trust myself, and that opens me up to trust you, or I trust God, or that life is not out to just crush me, and then I start to I don't know where it starts, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I do think there's yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, trust myself first. I think it's hard for a 6 to hear this because they have every rational reason not to trust themselves, but that's the number one growth movement for the 6. Trust yourself, get a backbone, and act. You're not bad. Your doubt hasn't disqualified you. Your doubts actually can take you deeper and further than people who don't doubt. So trust it. Go forward. So, yeah, I'm thinking, Niels. I think that's true. I think when I get stressed, it's very easy for me to start assuming the worst about people. And when I'm not stressed, I can tell I'm more open to their motives not being against me and trusting them. And I've had to learn to trust their nice things because maybe they actually mean it. Maybe they genuinely mean that compliment. Cordy. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Courtney's spitting some life wisdom here. You can only offer to someone else what you've done inside yourself. What we call this is interior work, something that is easily neglected. It's the first thing we neglect, but it's emotional, mental, interior work. Why do we do what we do? And if the 6 can learn to trust themselves, they may be very, very open to trusting God and allowing Him to show them another perspective and open to trusting other people. All right. Thank you guys so much. If you ever have any questions or want to talk further, I'd love to be available. Next week is our last week. The really fun number, the enthusiast, the number 7, tons of energy, life of the party, very big personality, extremely positive. It's crazy how a 6 and a 7 can be so close to each other on the Enneagram because 6s are the skeptics and pessimists, and the 7 is the eternal optimist, the perennial optimist, always seeing the best going forward. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.